Hello once again, race fans. This is the NASCAR Show here on the Grueling Truth where Legends Speak. I'm Alex Gray, along here with Steve Risley. We got 3 races to talk about. The Truck Series running at Eldora, Xfinity running at Watkins Glen, as well as the Cup Series. We had a really exciting weekend in racing. Let's get started. Let's go ahead and dive quickly into the Eldora Dirt Derby truck race. We had a first-time winner. Finally, after many close finishes and many, many times coming up close, Stuart Friesen finally gets his first career truck win at Eldora. Much needed for the guy. He came very close several times to winning a race, and finally he was able to come through and get the win. Sheldon Creed was second, Grenfinger third. Mike Marlar, I think it is, making a one-off at Eldora, finishing fourth for Josh Rium's team. Heck of a run for that small team. Todd Gilliland fifth, Christian Eckes, Chase Briscoe, Tyler Dipple, Tyler Ankrum, Matt Crafton. That's the top 10. Other notable finishes: Ross Chastain 12th, Ben Rhodes 14th. So congratulations to Stuart Friesen. I won't lie, I didn't get to catch much of it because I was working, but I did catch some highlights. That was a good race. And obviously, I think
here's a question I got for you on this: Is this a situation? This is I think I know the answer to this. I think you're going to agree with me, but where midget experience and dirt car track racing, what you run usually in a midget or something like that, that's obviously a big advantage in a race like this because you got to learn how to power slide the cars through the turn, the trucks. I mean, you're not gripping. You're not worried about grip as much as you are control. So I don't know. Did Stewart did he have dirt car track experience coming into this? Do we even know?
I think tracks like Eldora will benefit certain drivers, especially if losing my train of thought. Especially if like Kyle Larson, he ran in this race. That race for sure benefited him. So I think we've seen quite a few sprint car drivers and all that try this race because that is up their alley and that can give them an advantage to win the race. Tony Stewart even came out and said that he would love to run this truck race, and of course he owns Eldora. And also, before we continue, something that's a little bit of irony, I guess. Stuart Friesen, if you remember the incident with Tony Stewart, that sprint car incident with the kid Kevin Ward Jr.
That passed away. Yeah.
Well, it's weird because Stuart Friesen came out and called Tony Stewart a killer years ago and said he uses a sprint car as a weapon, and now he's won at this track. Of course, that was years ago. This is now, but I just thought I'd just bring it up real quick. I don't think it's anything to lose sleep over, but still emotional, big win for Stuart Friesen.
Okay, so before we move on to the Cup and Watkins Glen, should we take it to the next level at Eldora? Should we? And I don't think Eldora is big enough to handle Cup cars, but should we maybe take Xfinity there and try those cars there, or is it? I don't know. I mean, is it just too expensive to do? Because you're basically going to have to set a car up singularly one time for that track. It's going to be set up so differently than what you're going to run on concrete or asphalt. Is it worth it, or do we just say, hey, it's a great event for the trucks, let it go, let it be their venue, and leave it alone?
I mean, I think I'd love to see Xfinity race there, and they would have to alter the cars a little bit. Obviously, I know they ran quite a few tests before they ever ran the actual truck race at Eldora when they first started it back in 2013 or so. I think a lot of fans would drool at the idea with Cup running at Eldora or even at a dirt track in general. But how
long of a track is Eldora? I don't even know. Is it a mile track?
Let's see. Eldora, that track is I think a 0.7. No, that's 75 miles long of a race, not the actual length of the track.
Yeah,
okay.
It's probably about the same size. I don't even know if it's as big as Bristol.
0.5 miles.
So it's a half-mile track. You couldn't put 40 NASCAR cars on there. I don't think you could put 37 or 40 Xfinity cars on there.
Yeah, you'd probably have to do what the truck race does and do the heats and all.
Yeah. But that would be a fun alternate event. I mean, they tried the Roval in Charlotte. I mean, just do the heats and do that. But I think there's too much money at stake getting above the trucks in terms of sponsorship dollars and things like that, where you don't want Denny Hamlin in the FedEx car knocked out of heat qualifying in the first round and not going to race the rest of the night. And then, FedEx says, well, wait, we're paying $30 million to sponsor your car for the year or whatever they pay. I don't know it's $30 million. That was just a number right throughout. But so I think it's a great venue for the trucks. I watched the race. I remember the first year it was on. I think it was pay-per-view. I think the first year it was on, you had to do pay-per-view to watch it. And now it's just on regular sports. It was a great evening, fun. It's a different kind of driving. It's good, but it might be fun somewhere down the road to see Xfinity or Cup go to a bigger dirt track and try and put something like that on there. But I think it'd just be carnage because I don't think a lot of those drivers don't know how to drive that stuff. There's a lot of guys that are driving in Xfinity and Cup who probably never stepped on dirt before like that.
Unless
that dirt turns to slick concrete real quick because all the dirt gets taken out.
Unless you're like Christopher Bell or Kyle Larson, those two have put on shows on dirt in the lower circuits.
Right.
And I think
they all go to the Chili Bowl every year. Yeah, they all run at the Chili Bowl.
Yeah, so if they ran an Outdoor Cup, so we know who's going to be fighting for the win.
Yeah. Maybe Kyle Larson will finally get a win. All right. Where do you want to go from here? You want to go back to Watkins Glen and talk about that? I mean, the Eldora race was a great race. It was a fun evening. It's packed. I mean, what a great event. Tony Stewart puts on a great show there. Did he beat anybody up that night? I didn't see any of that. I know he was getting into scuffles earlier, but did he punch anybody out?
I don't think so, luckily.
I think so, yeah. He's got so much AJ Ford in him, it's nuts. And actually, I've gotten to meet AJ Ford a couple of times, and he's actually the perfect gentleman until you piss him off.
Oh, well, yeah.
And then you're in trouble. Just don't honk him off. I think Tony's kind of the same way, because I've gotten to meet Tony Stewart a couple of times, too, at the Brickyard, and when we had the Viagra car, and with Mark Martin, and he was a sweetheart guy, but you could see, this guy's got an edge. You don't want to say something that's going to honk him off because he's going to not be happy, and he's going to do it physically more than verbally.
Yeah, don't get on his bad side.
No, you don't want to be on either one of those two's bad sides, yeah. So Eldora was great. I thought it was a very fun evening. If you love racing and you want to see something different, and you love NASCAR and you want to see something different, it's a great event. Tony does a fabulous job putting it on. And, they pack that place in. People come from all over the country to come see that race. So I just wondered if there was any way to move it up to the next level, but I don't know that you should. I just probably let the trucks own that race and let them own the dirt.
It's
probably a better idea.
It pays homage to the grassroots of racing, and it's like the Truck Series' unique race. That's like the one race on the schedule that I think a lot of drivers look forward to is the Eldora truck race.
Yeah.
All right.
Then. Let's move on to the Cup.
All right. Well, let's do Xfinity first.
We'll do Xfinity first. All right. Let's do that first. All right. No problem.
Yeah. We'll do Xfinity, then we'll jump in the Cup. All right. So the Xfinity Series, we had another first-time winner, Austin Cindric getting his first career win. He wins at Watkins Glen. A.J. Allmendinger was second, and for the second time running with Colleague Racing, he gets DNQ'd again, or disqualified after post-race inspection, which I'm like, geez, the second time in a row, man. If you're A.J. Allmendinger, you're looking at Colleague Racing like, what's going on? But anyway, Christopher Bell.
Let's talk about that for a second. And it's great that Austin Cindric, it's Tim Cindric's son, right, who runs NASCAR Auto Racing. So it's his son. So that's great for him, and he's run strong. His name's always get mentioned on the Xfinity races. He's up front most of the time. He's got a great car, the 22 car. But, Dinger gets DQ'd for his car being like an inch too low or something like that. It was a track bar that was bent or something wrong, wasn't it? Something like that, or. And I got into somebody on Twitter who said, well, a lot of times these guys build cars to fail. They build them so they break, and it lowers the suspension and brings the car down and gives you more aero and more ground effects and like that. But these cars on this track, now I could I wouldn't have an argument if we were at like Michigan or if we were like at Indy, where it's a smooth racetrack. But you're talking about these are cars that run over these bump stops on every virtual corner. I mean, and the suspension, watching both races, the Xfinity and the Cup race, these cars are airborne. Mm-hmm. I mean, I saw Elliott had all four wheels off the ground at one time going through the bus stop, and we'll talk about that when we get to the Cup. But I saw it everywhere. The guys are off the ground. These cars the suspension's taking a beating. And, I watched the video of the guy who announced the penalty, and he's like, well, we didn't find any dings or dents in his fender, so therefore he didn't get hit. So, therefore, we think that it was just, like I said, now my question is to you is, these cars pass pre-inspection, right? I mean, they go through pre-inspection. I'm sure they measure all these things at that point in time.
Yeah, they do.
But you have to get your car pre-inspected before you can even get on the track to line up for the race. Then it comes back, and just because you didn't get banged by somebody or get dinged by somebody, and you're running over these bump stops left and right, and you're beating the crap out of this race car, and you're fighting your brains out, pushing this car beyond its limits on a very tough road course, is that a fair suspension in your eyes? Or disqualification?
Yeah, that's a question I've always asked myself is, how does a car change so much during the race? And it's not like these disqualifications happen all the time. We've only had 3 this season, one of them actually taking away a win. That was Chastain back at Iowa. I mean, I'm not an expert on those kinds of details on the cars and how they change so much to a point where they fail inspection. But it's and I think the other thing is, compared to when I started watching in 2004 to now, cars are, how do I say, more detailed. The cars are more, they're more technologically advanced. They're more detailed, a little bit more sophisticated, if you will. And maybe that's what perhaps leads to that, is that there's just so more of smaller elements that play into the car more than ever before. At least that's what it feels like.
But there had to be cars in that race that came in with bangs, bumps, damage, in, and they passed inspection. You get a guy like Allmendinger driving the 10 car, runs a great race. I mean, and he got outdrove on the last 2 laps. I mean, he drove an incredible race. Doesn't scratch his car, but I mean, he's pushing that car. We're talking about doing this at 150 to 160 miles an hour. 90 miles an hour through the turns. I mean, and like I said, you're running over these bump stops. You're going to beat this car up. Hell, I know when my wife gets in my car and drives it to go to the grocery store, I get back in it the next day, and it feels like, what the hell did she do to my car? There's no scratch on it, just like she drove it differently. I don't know what she did to it, but it's like, okay, I got to reset everything again. So I don't know. I think it's a little harsh of a suspension, especially for a fledgling team that's trying to come in, and infuse some money and some energy into the sport. I thought it was a little harsh. I think that post-race, unless they found something where the data didn't mention, where he just clearly they found that he just clearly cheated, or the team cheated. He didn't cheat. He's just driving the car. He's a part-time driver for him. So he's just getting in the car and driving it and doing a whale of a job for him. And I wish he was back in NASCAR, truthfully. Dinger's a good guy. But I think it's a tough penalty to drop him all the way to 37 and take him out a second when he fought so hard. And he got beat anyway, so obviously whatever he did wasn't that great of an advantage for him because he ended up, Cedric ended up running by him anyway. So I don't know. Just sometimes the penalties they do don't make a lot of sense to me. But I'm an Allmendinger fan, so that probably sits part of my decision-making process as well. But it was a great race. I mean, Watkins Glen is a great facility. They had sold out again. The place was packed. They were probably the most mobile homes I'd ever seen at a racetrack, sitting in the infield since I remember watching an Xfinity race, and then they doubled it like almost on the next day for the Cup race. So it's a great venue. It's up near Canada. They draw a lot of people down from Canada, and you go from there. But, it was fun. And then it was a prelude to what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, and I guess we'll move right along into the Cup race. You would have thought you were watching last year's race, but indeed, it looked like the same race as it did last year. Chase Elliott getting his 5th career win, his 2nd win of the season. Big win for him in that 19 in a dominant fashion. Him and Martin Truex were the show at Watkins Glen, and obviously Truex just couldn't get up to him, and it was a dominant performance by Chase Elliott, getting that win there. It's good for him, good for that Hendrick team. Looking at the Cup results now, as I said before, Elliott.
Well, wait, hang on. Wait, I'll make a disclaimer. I'll make a disclaimer right now. The 9 car is my car. I mean, that's who I root for every week is the 9 car. And the 9 car takes it and wins stage 1, wins stage 2, leads 80 of 90 laps. I think so. Only 10 laps he didn't lead, and that's probably when he was on a pit stop sequence. But then he marched right back up to the front. And you're right. The 19 car worked its way through, got up to him, and I think that probably in that race, Truex, at this point in their careers, Truex may be just a little bit better of a road course driver than the 9 car, than Chase. But on this given Sunday, I remember the last 25 laps. I think the last caution came out the last 25 laps, and I think they ran green pretty much for the most part there for the last 25 laps. Elliott made virtually no mistake. I mean, he hit his marks perfectly. He was spot on. And what appeared to me was, because I think that the 19 car, Truex, was a little bit better driver, he could catch him like through the bus stop or on the curves, on the turns. But the minute they got onto the straightaway, the 9 car pulled away. I mean, the Hendrick Power was there on Sunday. It was there because they would get onto the straight run where they could just flat out run, and that's where Elliott would make up his ground, and then he had to fight through the curves. And I think all Truex was doing was sitting back there waiting for the 9 car to make a mistake, and it never happened. But he could never get close enough to capitalize on it to him, because every time they got through one of the turns and got to a stretch of run where Elliott could just put his throttle all the way down, he was able to pull away and build a second and a half lead, and then it would get down to about 0.3 of a second, 0.4 of a second coming through the turns and the curves and the bus stop, the S's, and then he'd stretch it back out. So, Gustafson did a great job on strategy. Cole Pern did all he could possibly do, but it was definitely a 2-man race. Denny Hamlin, I thought, looked strong again, which is starting to get scary because, he wins last week, and now you've got him. He's back in third. His car's getting very strong. Who powers JGR? Do they do their own engines?
Just TRD development, I think.
TRD development does their engines. Okay, yeah.
Eric Jones, another
Yeah. Okay. So a couple things there. Let's keep on this race. So good for Chase Elliott. That's a great win for him. That's 2 wins for him. He doubled his playoff points. He was up to 14 now. And we'll talk a little bit about the standings here in a minute. Let's talk a little about Eric Jones. This is an interesting story. Because I watch the NASCAR shows that are on TV. I tape them and watch them late at night before I go to bed and just kind of get a glimpse of what everybody's saying. Larry McReynolds and those guys and Jamie McMurray and everybody else, Michael Waltrip that come on the shows. Jones's name is the most prominent name thrown around in the silly season market right now. That he has not signed a contract with JGR, and I think JGR signed Cole Custer, correct?
That's Bell, Christopher Bell.
Christopher Bell. Okay, Christopher Bell. I apologize. Christopher Bell. So, but this is a guy, Eric Jones, who finished 4th in this race and has been in the top 5 in, 5 or 6 of the last races?
Yeah.
Are you going to dump Eric Jones for an unproven Cup driver?
At this point, I don't think they will dump him, especially that they're currently in discussions, supposedly, on an extension. And considering the fact the way he's been performing comparing to what Bowman did earlier in the season, Eric Jones' win's got to be coming very soon. I feel like he's finally going to get that 20 back in victory lane again, like he did at Daytona last year. So, yeah, I mean, this is a tough situation, and there's something involving JGR and Toyota I do want to bring up because this came up this morning. But, Toyota, you don't have much in Cup. And, this is a tough situation. You have LFR and you have JGR unless you can convince the 96 team to go full-time, but I don't know. So, yeah, speaking of Toyota, DiBenedetto at 6. Again, Matt DiBenedetto, he's been performing better too. He's been doing a lot better than the start of the season. He's been getting a lot of both of the road courses he's ran this year. Very, very good runs. He got, I think, top 5 at Sonoma and 6 here at Watkins Glen. You never know.
He's running. Did he run for Levine? Who did he run for?
Yeah, he races for Levine Family Racing.
Levine Family Racing. I mean, that's at best a mid-level team.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have the funding that the big boys have, the Power 5 do. So I think somebody needs to take a look at DiBenedetto, and he probably should be more in the mix of where somebody can slot him into a better ride like SHR or something like that. And I should say, we got to give this kid a chance. I mean, he's taken mediocre equipment. Well, I'll say mediocre. I mean, but they don't have the funding to do all the high-tech stuff. But he's doing a heck of a job of driving race cars because he's had strong showings in several of the last races.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go on down. SHR. Still only 1 win.
Yeah, SHR didn't really make a whole lot of noise here.
Harvick finished 7th.
Yeah, Amarola was 12th. Suarez 17th. And who am I missing? Boyer, 20th. Yeah, Boyer was 20th.
Yeah, well, there's a $10 question. How much trouble is Boyer in?
Yeah, I'm not liking his odds right now. If I can take a look at the Cup standings really quick. Yeah, Boyer is currently 15th, but he's on the bubble. Johnson listed as 16th, I think.
We'll look at the standings. We'll talk about the standings. That's a whole story in itself because right now it's 4 races to go. It's you're starting to see some tempers flare right now on that. But in itself, Boyer, I mean, I think he should be a little nervous about. Because, Tony's a guy he pulled the trigger on Kurt Busch, and I thought Kurt Busch was driving well for them in the 41 car. He pulled the trigger on Danica Patrick, and Danica wasn't driving well, but she was a cash cow. I mean, so I just think that Stewart doesn't like anybody that can't win races. I think he just wants to win races. So, I don't think Harvick's going anywhere. Almirola is competitive enough and has a great sponsor in Smithfield. Suarez isn't going to go anywhere yet. But Boyer needs to make something happen in these last 4 races to get his butt into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he runs up front. He ran up front a lot of this race. He was up front for a lot of it. But some idiot move always seems to happen to him, whether it's his fault or not, and he gets slapped down. And he finished 20th in this race. So I think that JGR looks incredibly strong. Hendrick, I don't know what to say about Hendrick. I don't know if this is an anomaly for Chase Elliott. He understands this track. He's obviously become a good road course driver. Now, can he go duplicate it at Michigan, which is pretty much a Ford-dominated track out there? Forced him to dominate at Michigan for some reason. I don't know why they're going there. But nobody else from Hendrick is really putting any pressure. Then we see at the end of the race, Johnson. Is Johnson feeling the pressure now? He and Blaney got into it post-race on the pit road. I've never seen Jimmy ever do anything like that before, where kind of goes and confronts the driver publicly in front of cameras. And usually he'll do it privately in a locker room or in a garage or in a trailer or something like that. But is he starting to feel the pressure of needing to make this happen?
You have to in this situation. He's right on the bubble. He's never missed the playoffs once in his entire career that we've had it. It's really concerning. That's why they made the big crew chief change. Part of me still thinks he'll get in, but there's got to be if you're Byron, Jones, Larson, Boyer, Johnson, Newman, Suarez, Menard, Stenhouse, there's got to be a big sense of urgency.
Oh, no doubt. There's only 4 races left. Correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and you're going to Michigan, so you got to figure a Ford cars. You got Logano and Harvick and Kozlowski. Amarola drives a Ford. Blaney drives a Ford. Boyer drives a Ford. For some reason, I just feel like in the last 3 or 4 years, the Fords have dominated at Michigan. I don't know why I feel that way. Maybe it's because it's Penske. But that's basically his home track for whatever reason. But these other guys, the pressure's building and mounting on these guys right now, where do they start driving just for points, or do they just go ahead and drive out hard to win? Like guys the guys up front, Logano and Harvick and Elliott and Busch and Hamlin, they've all got multiple wins now. They don't need to drive for wins, or they don't need to drive for points. They're just going to go drive for wins because they're already locked in. They're driving for stage points now is what I think they're driving for.
Mm-hmm.
The stage points turn into playoff points.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk before we move on here. Was this a good weekend for Kyle Busch or not? Is there anybody in Watkins Glen that didn't punk Kyle Busch?
Yeah, geez, Kyle Busch he's usually kind of the bully on the track, but now he got bullied. I know Byron
in both races.
Yeah, Byron ran into the back of him at one point. He was pretty frustrated with him. And then, Bubba Wallace, he almost got ran off the track. Bubba just straight up took him out. And I could hear fans just going ballistic over it. I think, obviously I respect Kyle Busch. He plays kind of that villainous role. But, man, I think Bubba Wallace won some fans on Sunday, man.
Oh, I think it was even as much as of a 9-car fan I am, I thought the highlight of the race for me was Bubba just backing him right into his bumper and saying, "I'm not taking this crap from you," and just put him out. So, that was great. So, is this other drivers just gaining more courage or losing a little bit of respect for Kyle because Kyle races hard? He races you hard. The 18-car races you hard, and people are they getting frustrated with it and tired of it?
It's more the fact that, we're nearing the playoffs now, and, with the stage racing and the way our playoffs are, the racing gets much more aggressive. And people race in a different mentality than they did 6 years ago. You know, they race in a different mentality. You know, Bubba Wallace is a guy, you know, who's trying to race with what he's got. You know, he's trying to give it his all. Kyle Busch is trying to earn more points and get himself a good standing for the playoffs. William Byron's trying to keep himself in the playoffs, which I feel he's going to get in. I feel like Byron could even get a win here soon. He's been performing so much better as of late. So, I mean, you know, everybody has there's so many different mentalities going in, and sometimes when all of them meet at once, some sparks can be created in that case. So, I mean, it's just the way of racing has just changed. It's much more aggressive and it's more tense, you know. So, I mean, hey, you know, I guess it's just a bad week for Kyle Busch.
Okay. Yeah. So looking at the standings now. Let's go to the standings real quick. I mean, we have 9 cars locked in, correct? Bowman, yep. Elliott, Busch, Keselowski, Truex, Hamlin, Harvick, Logano, and so there are 7 spots left. And you've got Byron in 13th. You got Eric Jones in 15th. You got Jimmy Johnson in 14th and Clint Boyer in 16th. Then looking in, you've got Newman and Suarez in 17th and 18th, and Menard in 19th. How heated is this going to get at Michigan for these guys? I mean, do people get out of their way and let them run and go? And you know, and the guys like this say, "I'm just going for the win." But is the show this week going to be these 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 guys down here that are just trying to get into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think the racing is going to be much more tense than it was back in June. I thought the race in June was actually pretty good. You know, obviously Joey Logano just had a strong car that day. But yeah, I mean, things are only going to get more tense until we get to the playoffs at this point. Let me not get into the picks to win yet. But yeah, I think you're going to see a very tense race. You may see another physical race. You're going to see cars beating and banging for sure. I think Michigan's going to be a really interesting race.
You think they'll beat and bang at Michigan? I mean, that's pretty fast
Possibly.
track. Yeah.
It's possible.
So, Watkins Glen, kind of, I've never been a big proponent of road courses for the NASCAR, so I thought they were always too heavy. But tell you what, that was a heck of a race.
Oh, it was.
Should they put more road courses into the series and do more things like that? I mean, they've got what? They've got 2 or 3? They got 2. They got Sonoma and Watkins Glen, right? And then they got the Roval. When does the Roval run?
I would assume the Roval's a road course. It's just, you know, an infield style a road course, you know, within a track. I think personally the Cup Series could add one more road course, but I think that's it. Therefore, you have to.
It's almost like, too, well, what are they doing at Pocono next year?
That's the doubleheader. They're running the triangle track on both of those.
So they're just running. They're not running the road course on either one of the days.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Because Indy's got a nice road course too. I mean, F1. They built it for F1, so they've got a road course there too. But actually, Indy runs a road course race the 2 weekends before the Indy 500.
Yeah.
That could be a place where you can do a doubleheader at Indy, which would make Indy more exciting because basically Indy's not a great track. You know, and there's another problem too. You're coming down to the last race to qualify is going to be Indy, which is just not a track made for these cars.
Right.
So, yeah. I grew up in Indianapolis, and I've been to the Indy 500. That's a track made for ground effects cars, open wheel racing, you know, low banking, 4 corners, not 2 corners or 2 turns, and you know, just made for narrower cars, things like that. And Goodyear seems to have never gotten a tire wear completely right at Indy, so it'll be interesting to see. But that's going to change next year, I know, because they're going to make the last race, qualifying race, Daytona, which used to be the Firecracker 400, correct?
Yeah.
Indy's going to move to July. take the July 4th weekend, so whatever. Okay, what else we got to talk about here? Chase Elliott, dominant car, very good car, good for Hendrick. Put them on the map. Let's see if they can duplicate it, come back strong. But who else? Let's see. Go down the list down here. Everybody's pretty good. Hemrick. How safe is Daniel Hemrick?
Oh, he's pretty far outside. He's going to have to basically, I think he's
keeping a contract.
Oh, yeah. He's not. Yeah, losing my train of thought.
Yeah.
I think Hemrick's fine where he is. You know, he's just a rookie. I think he's going to continue to learn, you know, and just continue to, you know, just learn the Cup Series. And, you know, Childress hasn't, you know, Dillon's hadn't had best of luck looking at Childress. Hemrick finished 35th at Watkins Glen. Wasn't really a good day for him, obviously. That could change too.
Yeah. And then I think he's one of your boys. Your boy Kyle Larson. When's the last time he won?
September 2017 at Richmond.
There you go.
So
becoming a bust?
I wouldn't say he's a bust yet, but it is a little concerning to why he's struggling. Concerning the fact that his teammate has won and performed better. Larson's still in the playoff picture right now. He's 14th, but a couple bad races, he's out of it. So that's another thing to think of.
Yeah. Actually, in the playoffs, I think he's actually 10th now. I think he's pretty safe. I'm looking to project the playoff rankings right now. He's 14th overall, I think, but in the playoff standings, because of the stage points, he's 10th.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking at. So I don't think he's got a problem. But still, I mean, he seems to run up front at the beginning of races, and then for some reason something goes wrong, either due to him or due to his equipment. But then, like we said, you know, Kurt Busch was able to put the one car in the victory lane. You know, so he's locked in and going to be there. So at least Ganassi will have one car in there. Where else do you want to go?
Well, I wanted to bring up some news that came out this morning. As you know, Jeffrey Earnhardt has been driving part-time schedule for Joe Gibbs Racing. He tweeted out 3 hours ago, quote, "Just wanted to let you all know that IK9 and I have parted ways and wanted to thank them for the opportunity to race with Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota Racing. Wish them best in their future." Basically, Jeffrey Earnhardt is no longer at JGR, especially that IK9 pretty much teamed up with Jeffrey last year when he ran with Premium and Gaunt Brothers. And, of course, he moved over to Gibbs for this opportunity. From what I'm seeing here and judging by some research I've done on Reddit and other places, something tells me here that Joe Gibbs Racing pretty much stole IK9 out of Jeffrey's hands. And money talks. Somebody made a really good point here. One bet is that IK9 has potentially been spending too much and wanted out. And, of course, they have a contract. Gibbs won't let them out. So IK9 was sent scrambling to find cash to pay the bill. Possibly that Gibbs cut him a deal to replace Jeffrey to fulfill the contracts. Other people suggest that this is because they're going to have IK9 back Christopher Bell in Cup next year. That's a theory some people have. Obviously, not a whole lot of happy people because, you know, the XCI team they had, the 81, next year they were supposedly going to go Cup full-time with Jeffrey with JGR support. And now this has happened. So, you know, something tells me that Jeffrey kind of got the short end of the stick here, and I just want to know, you know, obviously not all the information has come. I think it's going to show itself later on, but I just, you know, what's going on? You know, why suddenly? And Jeffrey's done well. He's performed well for the most part driving at JGR. You know, he's been in contention to win quite a few times. So my big question is, what happened. You know, what's truly going on here.
Well, you called it. You hit it on the head. It's that JGR just stole him out from under him, and they're going to put one of the young guns coming up in from Xfinity into the car. And you know, Jeffrey Earnhardt, while he's driven well, he's really never really been in great contention for anything.
This is the first time he was truly in contention to win races. You know, he's
well, he had good equipment. So he finally got some good equipment. Is there any nepotism in there that his cousin picks him? I don't know. What's the relation between him, Jeffrey, and Dale? Are they cousins?
Dale Jr. is Jeffrey's uncle.
Dale Jr. is Jeffrey's uncle. Any chance that Dale Jr. puts him in one of his cars?
Well, the story behind that is Jr. always welcomed Jeffrey to drive for him. But Jeffrey pretty much had the mentality of, I'm going to try and make it on my own. He didn't want to get up because of his last name. You know, he didn't want to get into his racing because of his last name. He kind of wanted to build his own identity. He's done a good job with that. But, you know, I hate to say this, but if I'm Jeffrey right now, it wouldn't be a bad idea to bite the bullet, swallow your pride a little bit, and perhaps give Uncle Dale a call and see if maybe that 8 car he has some open dates. Jeffrey could drive a few races, you know, because I hate for him to suddenly not have a ride anymore. Because you think, you know, he has some races under good equipment. He's done well. You think someone else may look at him and go, well, we could pick him up and put him in an Xfinity car or something. You know, it's hard to say. You know, and I'll go back to my one battle cry. Dear Toyota, who else do you have in Cup besides Gibbs and LFR? Exactly. You have Gaunt brothers, but they run part-time. So, you know, you have all these drivers, but you don't have enough teams. Chevy, meanwhile, they've got all sorts of teams. Ford's got all sorts of teams. You know, and other manufacturers could be coming in the sport in the coming years. So, Toyota, you put a lot of money into NASCAR, but you need another Cup team or two. You know, you used to have Red Bull, BK, Michael Waltrip Racing. All those teams have gone by the wayside. So.
Yeah, but as long as you got JGR with Toyota, you're going to win a lot of races.
Yeah, the Toyota really throws a lot.
They
of
probably.
money.
I would bet JGR has more. You know, without counting it up here, I would bet they have more wins than any other team right now. Well, I'm sure they do. Yeah, because Busch has 4. Logano's with Penske, so he's got 2. Hamlin's got 3, so there's 7. Truex has 4, so there's 11. Yeah, there's nobody else. There's only 22 races. So, and then Eric Jones has none right now, but they got half the wins belong to JGR. So does Toyota need to invest any more money into it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, or they just keep pouring money into their cash cow, which is JGR.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean, Chevy's got 18 cars. You know, Chevy. I think I read the other day Chevy has 18 cars in the Cup Series right now.
Yeah.
But I don't. I think Ford has more wins than Chevy, if I counted them all up. So. But anyway, all right, Michigan International Raceway. It's a speed track. It's been Ford dominated recently. What are we expecting this weekend?
I can expect either a Penske win or I can expect Eric Jones winning. I believe he's a Michigan native, and I think a Michigan native has never won, I think that's what I've heard. So I think Eric Jones has got to be a big pick here. He's been finishing in the top 5 the last few races. You know, I think he's definitely a big pick. But, of course, you know, it is a Ford-dominated track, as you said before. So Logano's going to be a favorite. He dominated the race back in June. Keselowski, he's never won there, and he's a Michigan native. But, obviously, he'll be in the front. And then you got Blaney, who's also been running well as of late, who could potentially be a contender.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
Besides that, I don't think I have anything else unless you want to go ahead and Discount Tire has announced that they are last couple things. Discount Tire, they are continuing a long time extension with Team Penske. So good news there. Some throwbacks being announced. Bubba Wallace throwing back to Adam Petty's old spree.
Wait a minute, you know why that is, don't you?
Why?
Because Penske owns Penske Leasing.
Mm-hmm.
Which rents cars and trucks and everything, and so they're not going to dump that account. Trust me, they're going to throw that money back into that race car because Penske is into truck leasing, car leasing, and everything, and he's got dealerships all over the country. So they're not going to let that cash cow go away for them. So, but that's a good move. That's a great move for Penske. I mean, they've got another sponsor locked on again for a long-term contract deal, which is in this sport in this day and age is hard to get.
Yeah.
But overall, would you say I would say the quality of racing since the aero package has changed, and I don't know if I want to blame it on the aero package. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's aero. I think it's the stage racing has changed things a lot. And then the closer you get to this cutoff point, the intensity of the racing increases better. But I think the last 4 or 5 races I've seen are some of the best racing I've seen in NASCAR in the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, is what I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the racing has really changed.
It's kind of a lot more intense. I mean, you got the young guns coming in like Bubba Wallace. You know, Byron showed me something. Guys like Kyle Busch are not going to go out there and just bully people around the track anymore. These young guns don't care. They're going like, hey, and then you got Keselowski out there. I'm going to race you. Everybody, the new phrase seems to be, I'm going to race you like you race me. You got Blaney and Johnson going at each other now. You got some of the guys that just stay calm, cool, and collected. But it seems to me the intensity level of NASCAR has picked up to a level to where I think people that haven't been watching it lately need to come back in and start watching it again because they're racing each other very hard right now. And it's easier to do that when you have fenders on your cars than when you don't have fenders on your cars. And actually I watched the F1 race in Hungary Sunday morning at 4 o'clock in the morning out here. And, that was a great race between Verstappen and Hamilton. I mean, that went down. It's the first time I've seen an F1 race go to the last 2 or 3 laps. Usually somebody's 20 seconds ahead. But, they were nose to tail until finally Hamilton found a way to get around him because the tires started wearing out. But he got around him, and then, it was over then once Hamilton got in front of him. But the intensity of racing has picked up largely. So, and I wish they'd go back to the qualifying format they used at Watkins Glen, where they just put you all on the track at the same time, you run your laps and go.
Yeah.
Rather than the single car qualifying. I'm not a big. That's just boring to even watch. See guys make. I mean, I DVR it and I watch it in about 5 minutes. That's all you got to do. So. Anyway. All right, partner. Anything else we need to talk about this week? Great race, great week for NASCAR. We're down to the final 4 weeks of racing. It ends in Indianapolis. We got Michigan coming up. Where are we going between Indianapolis and Michigan? We go to Bristol, don't we? We go to Bristol.
Yeah, I think it's Michigan, Bristol, Darlington, Indy.
There you go. Banging and bumping all the way around. Rubbing us racing, boys. Have at it.
Yep, it's going to be a fun 4 weeks to see who's going to make the playoffs. And it's only going to get.
I think that's the big story now. I think the big story now is that 14 through 17 or 18, it's so tightly wound, and you're talking 10 or 12 points. Any one slip up by anybody is going to change things around. Who do you got this week? I'm going to let you go first this time. I already got mine written down and tagged on my wall.
All righty. In terms of who I think will win at Michigan. Let's see. I'm going to go with, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet. Eric Jones. I think Eric Jones wins. He's
Who are your dark horses? Give me 2 dark horses.
Okay. I think Ryan Blaney has to be one. And I'm going to go ahead and throw in Brad Keselowski because I think a win for him there is due. So, and don't count out Logano either. But, yeah, I'd say between Jones, Blaney, and Keselowski.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Jones. I mean, I don't like the fact this kid's being tossed around in silly season when he's had, he's had a good season. And he's solidly in the playoffs. I mean, and I don't like the fact that he's being tossed around. I think the kid just needs to keep developing and driving. But, JGR they kind of did this with Logano, too. They kind of dumped Logano off. Remember?
Yeah, they did.
Cause he was driving the 20 car for JGR, and they kind of just, he was learning to drive, and he started young, at a very young age, and they kind of dumped him off, and then he ended up at Penske, and look what he's done now. He's a Cup champion.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Cup champion. So I think it's great. So, yeah, I hope they stick with Eric Jones. I really do. Stick one of the other guys in the Xfinity car. Let them pay their dues. I mean, Elliott won a championship in Xfinity. Let these guys learn. Let them get skilled. Let them come up through the ranks and do it the right way. And just don't give them a car because they're having success, at a different level. So, okay, my picks are my dark horses. I think Hendrick Power is up to speed. When I saw Hendrick be able to pull away from JGR Power or Toyota Power on the straightaways, I think the power is back for Hendrick. I think Elliott's gotten himself back on a hot streak, so my dark horses are going to be Chase Elliott. And I'm also going to use Kevin Harvick because he's a Ford. I think he's desperate for a win, too. But my predicted winner is going to be Logano. I think 22 car is going to dominate this weekend. He's done well at this track every time I've watched him race there.
Mm-hmm.
And you could substitute Keselowski in there, too, but I think you almost feel like there's a little bit of a bounty on Keselowski's head because of the comments he made where I'm going to run through you.
Yeah.
And really, ever since he made that comment, he hasn't been very much in competition in much of anything. So, but Logano runs clean on this track. He does well. So I'm going to go with Logano, Elliott, and Harvick as my dark horses.
All righty.
All right.
I figured you'd pick Elliott and Harvick as your dark horses too. But
well, you got to go Ford, and Elliott looks strong. I mean, every win that kid builds more confidence.
Oh, he does. He does.
Yeah. All righty then. Get us out of here. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Yep, it'll be fun. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the NASCAR Show here on the Grueling Truth, the Legends Speak, from Steve Risley and myself, Alex Gray. We're signing off. We'll see you next time.